and everything else. So we should be golden.
Nice. Polished.
Da-da. All right. I think we're live. Like I always do. I always wait until this tells me. When that tells me we're live, we're live. But we should be live right now. Yep, we are definitely live. Let me just switch this real quick. There we go. Okay, well, welcome everybody. We are back here at NBP YouTube channel. I'm glad you guys are here today. We're starting I wouldn't say starting our live chats, but we're starting our live streams for the month again. We have several planned for this month, actually. And we had one last week, but we had to reschedule that, so we have another one tomorrow. But we are starting today with the one and only Brett Seeley. Hello, Brett. How are you?
Hello, hello. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Man, I've known you for a minute, at least a decade, something like that.
It's been about a decade,
Yeah.
if not more.
But oddly enough, we've never met. Not in person.
We've always been like two ships passing in the night. Like
Yeah.
whenever you came into Denver, I was not around, and then whenever I was in your neck of the woods, you were out someplace else, traveling the world, being famous. So
I don't know about any of that. But I was traveling a lot back then, and traveling, of course, stopped in 2020. I never got it going again from there. I do 2 trips a year now when it used to be twice a month. So
oh
it's just
wow.
a different era. So, but let's start with that. Let's remind the folks what your focus is. I'm sure everyone knows you about your fitness photography, but that encompasses a lot of different things because you're also, in my opinion, a fine art photographer. Tell the people what you do and what you try to do in your work.
Well, the majority of my career has been fitness photography. I shot lots of athletes doing fitness competitions and showcasing the physique. I started off using strobes, so never learned natural light, and so strobes have been my entire life for the majority of my shoot time.
Nice.
Hugely obsessed with strobes. Without lights, I feel completely naked. So, and because of physiques, I do shoot a lot of physique photography, or more on the artistic side. So
Yeah.
it's been an amazing journey. Been fortunate to have shot tons of very, very talented athletes. But then after 2020, that kind of changed the world, and so it erased my entire travel schedule. So,
Yeah.
like everybody else, we had to adapt and pivot. And so I got into online coaching, and so I started a coaching group. And now, I tell you, man, it's the next generation of talent is insane. You know, there are some people that are in our collective community
Yeah.
that charge more than I do, shoot better than I do. And the cool thing is everybody is always supportive of one another.
Yeah.
And that's been the really coolest thing. That's one of the things that I'm most proud of with shooting. It's not about, what my favorite shoot was or what my favorite image that I ever created was. Now I get so much, it sounds corny, but I get so much happiness in seeing somebody else who's on the front end of the career.
Yeah.
Someone in their first or second or third year shooting stuff that blows my stuff out of the water in my 16th year, you know? So it's crazy to even imagine where they're going to be when they have a decade in.
It is, and
It's
it's
nuts.
beautiful to see. And I just want to, as a parentheses, it's crazy how many things parallel with you and I. You just said 16 years in. I'm 16 years in. Our kids are about the
Uh,
same age. We're both going to turn the same age later this year, which is what, 30, 32, right? I think it was.
32 is next year,
Thir-
31 this year.
31
Yeah.
this year. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. It was funny how many parallels we have. Like I started this whole nonsense in '09, as well. I guess you did as well. It's funny how many of those parallels there are. I mean, we've gone some markedly different directions in some ways, but I guess that's the impetus of this discussion for the folks watching. Brett and I were chatting once on Instagram, like we do from time to time, and we got into discussion about the different ways we approach our subjects on set, from posing, like posing them and being a little bit more in control of how we pose. And then I said, well, I don't pose anyone anymore. I didn't even used to do much of it, and now I do none at all. And we chatted a little bit and thought we should continue this conversation live. And that's kind of where we're starting anyway. Where it goes, I
Yeah.
don't know, but that's where we're starting. So, yeah, I guess I'll start this real quick. I am definitely of the opinion that I don't really coach, and it's not that I have some kind of expectation or I can't be bothered. Is that I'm not very good at that. Let me rephrase that. The work that I love, that I end up getting, that I look through it, I go, that's the shot, that's the shot, that's are always the ones that I had nothing to do with coaching. I had to
Mm.
capture it. I had to build up the moment somehow. I had to play with that engagement and that interaction that I have with the subject, almost like a dance. And then it led to that moment that I did not manufacture Those are my favorite shots. So I don't push because I don't want pushed shots. I feel like if a model is in a position for more than literal 1 second, I've lost the moment. That's me. Now, is that easy? Not necessarily, but where do you come from and what are your pros and cons from how you do it?
I'm on the exact opposite spectrum.
Okay.
But I probably want to say, just kind of rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
No, you have a huge reputation. You have an amazing body of work. And so I think when someone comes in with experience, because they can trust that you are going to deliver on your end, it probably allows them to step out of their comfort zone so they can tap into those emotions and expressions and poses that they never have tried before, which is amazing, if you think about it. Because the experienced models that do this for a living,
Yeah.
the ones that are paid models that travel and they shoot with the same
Sure.
people, they're probably giving very similar poses to most because it's the bread and butter.
Yeah.
They deliver pose A, B, and C, pose A, B, and C. And when they come across someone who kind of nurtures, the energy and makes it so it's a true space to collaborate. It's got to be an amazing energy in the air. For those that are brand new to photography, this may sound kind of weird, but I'm a firm believer of the energy has got to be right.
It does.
When the vibes are going in the right direction, then you get some of the most amazing images. Unfortunately, I don't have the same experiences because most people that I shoot, it's their first time or their second time.
Yeah.
Or even, when you have people that have shot quite a bit, if they don't shoot full time and they shoot maybe 2 or 3 times a year after a show, they might enjoy moving freely a little bit on their own. But if they're not shooting a ton, a lot of people that they shoot with probably don't have the experience to be able to guide, to correct, to tweak. With fitness, one of the things that I see happen a little bit too often, there's a lot of people that can shoot people with muscles, but there's not a lot of fitness photographers. And there's a huge difference there because if you shoot someone that has muscles, click, 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 you're bound to get a shot that looks good because of the muscles.
Sure.
The muscles look amazing.
Yeah.
But fitness photographers, they've got to be able to say, I love that pose, but now point your left toe. Good. That's going to bring out your quad a little bit. Now pull that toe towards you to activate the hamstring.
Right.
Arch, activate the glutes. Good. Vacuum a little bit. Now twist. Now flare out your left lat. All those things tied in together are going to make a really powerful image. If you miss the lats and everything else is on point,
Yeah.
the shot's just almost there. And as an athlete, you're going to say, oh, it looks good except for my lat. I should have flared out my lat.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I was a silent shooter until enough athletes kept saying, oh, I wish I would have done this. Oh, I should have done that. Then I took that as that was my fault because I should have caught that. So that's why I'm very vocal. Good. Turn here, here, here. You don't know what to do? That's fine. I got it.
You got it. Yeah.
Because I know how I see your physique and I know what muscles I'm assuming you want to showcase. Spread it, flare out your lats, rotate, vacuum, breathe, vacuum, breathe. So there's a lot of direction. A lot of times when people come in, they say that they have a lot of experience. I let them move for like 2 seconds, and then I slowly butt in. Okay, now turn around.
Yeah.
Now do this. Now do that. And I think there have been a few models that push back. A few have really gotten upset. They said,
Really?
let me move. And I have to remind myself,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're a pro, I have worked with some pros. Well, I've worked with quite a few pros. I mean, not to be insulting, but I've worked with a lot of amazing models, but even the most experienced will tell you that they're only guessing what it looks like because they're not on the other side of the camera.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think most appreciate, but I'm very intrigued with your style though. In this phase, I just want to be able to just create, to trust that the other person can bring something to the table or bring more to the table. And the proof is that it works because, just take a look at your work, so obviously it definitely works.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that sort of one of my core tenets in what I try to do when I either with my regular collaborators or someone that I've never collaborated with before, I try to have a lot of communication up front. I talk about that energy. I talk about how I don't know what direction we're going to go when we get there, but we have a basic idea. But I have the core tenet is that I respect that at the end of the day, the artwork is them. And I have to bring something out in them, but they are the artwork. I am the the vessel or the sort of impetus of the art. I'm capturing it. I'm maybe influencing it, but they are the art. So I have to conform to them more than the other way around. So when I start moving with them, especially as someone I've never shot before, I say, let's do a first set. I don't necessarily call it a burner set, but it might be a burner set. It just might be something we throw out. But I want to see how they move, almost like a dance. And then can I conform to them to capture them in the best way of what they're doing? Or is there something I want to recommend, or are we just out of luck? Because there's the flow is everything, right? The models that I work with the most, I can predict them and they can predict me. So they go turn a certain way, and before they hit that moment, it's me and the camera, bam, that pocket happens at the same time, bam, 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 and we'll keep going. Maybe they're keepers, maybe they're not, but I can predict them. That happens over time. That's just makes sense if you work with someone a lot. But when you work with someone brand new, I conform to them as best I possibly can to see, are they a flower? Are they a pauser? Like click, 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 or they constantly keep moving? I have some keywords I might tell them. I try to create an atmosphere. And of course, some people, and I want to address this immediately because this came up recently with someone else I was talking to. They say, all right, so Nino, you shoot sexy, erotic type work all the time. So do you try to create like a sexy connection with the model? And the answer is no. Most of my shoots are very silly. There's a lot of laughing, etc. But I do try to convey what I want them to express, but I do not pretend that I need to connect in some kind of sexual manner with them. To me, that's strange, to say the least. But I've heard some photographers say that, and I'm like, you're flattering yourself, buddy. I don't know about any of that. So it's not that, but it's a way of trying to be like, I want you, one of my favorite terms is, I want you to take yourself too seriously. I want melodrama. I want you to pretend you're making like a cinematic film. I want you to really take yourself seriously. Nothing is corny. Nothing is off the table. Nothing is cringe. Bring it, and I entice them to go that direction. And then unfortunately, every personality is different, Brett. And that is where my challenge comes in. Sometimes the personalities just don't gel. And that's where I struggle. That's when I feel I was more like you. It's like, all right, I got to get through this. How can I control it? And that's where I'm really weak. Micromanaging something.
How often do you think that happens?
I don't shoot I don't shoot as often anymore. I shoot once every 2 months now. Actually, I got 2 shoots this month, but I used to shoot weekly, right? So it would happen probably about a third of the time when I was shooting a lot. Now it's rare. I think I had one last year where it was like 5 frames in, I'm standing there like, oh God. I just, no offense to her, sweet girl, gorgeous girl, but there was no vibe, and it just never gelled at all. And I ended up with some basic pictures of a pretty girl. So it only happened once last year.
Do you miss it? Do you miss shooting as often as you did before?
That's a great question. I thought I was interviewing you, man. Come on. No, it's a great question because it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been talking to my close friends here about quite frequently. I think what I've come to the conclusion is that no, I don't miss shooting that much. I am more deliberate in what I'm doing now. I'm more planned. I work on more vision, because for years I fell into the stereotype, the stigma that I just shoot pretty girls to shoot pretty girls. I guess that's what I am. And over time I was like, okay, I've done a lot of that. Yeah, but maybe there's more. And I see work that I like. I see work that moves me, that I wish I created. And I go, well, why can't I? Why couldn't I do something like that? And so I too am trying, sorry about my daughter's dogs. I too am trying to take myself a little more seriously. I have something to say with my work. Have I completely found it? No, but I'm trying. I'm trying to figure something out. I'm trying to express myself through this medium of shooting erotic portraits in some manner and take myself seriously. So I don't miss shooting as much because I don't miss the time wasted. And there's a lot of work I don't ever want to just redo again. There's a lot of work I can go like shoot by numbers. I can go shoot token swimwear glam tomorrow blindly while thinking about something else, and they'll be pretty. But I don't want to do that anymore, if that makes sense.
What percentage of what you're doing now is education based? Is it primarily all education?
In terms of what I shoot, or just like my day-to-day activities?
It's day to day. Or I know you're a man of many hats. You do a lot of stuff.
So in 2022, I took my MVP retouch tool, this channel. I took it internal. I dumped the previous partners, development partners, and I found a new one. who I've been working with since. And I also took everything in house in terms of the website, all the infrastructure, product delivery, everything. It went completely in house. It was all mine anyway, but I pulled it more control. I just have a development partner who's an amazing human being. I love him to death. And then I control everything else. I can complete this. The idea was to push NBP to be my main career, so I don't have to take clients anymore. And I'm kind of there, but every now and then someone gives me a proposal for a shoot, and I'm like, that sounds good. I just did a shoot this week, a client shoot this week. If I feel like I can do it, I'll take it, but I'm no longer pushing, trying to be a hired photographer or commercial photographer and do any commercial work at all. So it's not like I'm living a life of luxury, but I'm thinking I really love doing the MVP thing. So I pushed hard into it. I mean, I put 700-800 hours of work into that website that summer. And that's I mean, people think I sit around and edit pictures all day. I do marketing. I do web management. That's what I do. That's how we run NBP, and product development as well. So I'm learning a lot about color science and a little bit of coding ever so slightly, but my main partner does that. So I still do education on a one-to-one basis, but that's about once or twice a month now. I don't prioritize that anymore either. NBP keeps me busy. So, and I just shoot more like when I can. And like I said, I don't want to flip this around. I'm here to interview you, but since you asked, what I will say is I am trying this year. I'm just about to launch an art book for the first time. I'm trying to do another art book for the autumn. I'm trying to be that fine artist guy. You know what I mean? The fine artist business model, doing art just for the art and seeing if you can make a career out of it. That's where I'm headed. But you alluded to before we went live that you're kind of in a transition year as well. Can you tell me a little bit about this year for you?
Yeah, I've always looked up to what you've done. You've always been one of the leading influences in terms of education. I mean, you've done
Thank you.
workshops everywhere, and with all of the plugins that you offer. I mean, I use everything that you have, and so
Cool.
it has made a humongous difference in my workflow because
Thanks,
I'm
man.
old school, man. I had to learn. I learned editing from going to the Border Books or Walden Books, whatever the bookstore was called back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
I had to I bought I used to go to the bookstore, buy a coffee, and then I would just get a book on editing, and I would take notes. Then go home and I'd try to practice, and these are on slow, crappy ass computers, and it sucked.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
would take me 2 hours to edit an image when I
Sure.
first started because I didn't know what I was doing. And then out of nowhere, here come these plugins that do things that I can't even explain. You know, the last one that you shared with me that does I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. You can change the colors, the color wheels for the shadows, midtones, and highlights. I'm proof that you can be dumb and you can have a successful career as a photographer. I don't know anything about my camera. I just know 3 buttons to push. I don't know anything about all this technical mumbo jumbo that Nino has his brain wired to understand. But he sends a tool over, and then I press play, and then it does all these amazing things, and then my life has become so much easier.
Well, good, man. I'm
And
glad to
so
hear that.
the impact you've had on the industry has been huge. Most people in my group all use your tools.
Damn,
And so
okay.
it saves so much time.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Well, then, if that's the case, then I got to shout out my partner, Yo, Joaquin, but he's called Yo. He's based in Germany. He takes my crazy ass ideas and tells me what's realistic and what's not. And he's a coding guru. I mean, I call him like a coding savant. You know, he can take my crazy ideas and make them into panels and make them better. So props to Yo on that. I'm glad he'll be very happy to hear that. Because like I said, I'm the weird idea guy who sends a huge Google Doc of ideas, and he's like, bro, some of that is impossible, but let me tell you what I can do, and then we finagle into something cool. But we always try to make stuff that's useful, so I'm really glad to hear that, man.
I mean, this goes way back. There's so many options in terms of plugins and tools. And I've been very fortunate that I've gotten a lot of samples from a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So I'm able to try out a lot of different ones. But my workflow, it's all the same. It's your tools. So
Oh man, well, I
high five
appreciate
to
that.
you and the team. But yeah, this year it's I too am trying to get out of shooting every single day, or I don't want to travel like I have in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've done tons of group trips where there's 40, 50, 60 plus people, photographers and models, and they were a blast. But what I just realized this last year is that, and I've shared a lot of this stuff on social media as well. I've always known that my brain was wired a little bit differently, but I'm going through the process of getting tested to officially know that my brain is wired a little bit differently. My daughter's on the spectrum, and then there's a lot of similarities between how she sees the world and how I see the world. And with a little bit of a dose of this and a little bit of that, I do things a little bit different than what is normally acceptable, I guess. Um, I just want to relax. I just want to not have to, put on this persona in front of 60 people for a couple of days and then be paralyzed for a week after.
Yeah.
Whenever I get home from these trips, I am just an empty shell of a human, and life just it passes by.
That's what,
Days you're never going to get back.
that's what in the neurodivergent world that we live in, that's what's called masking, and it's exhausting.
And I just started realizing that now. I
Yeah.
mean, last month, I had my first case of a burnout.
Yeah.
There was something that I wanted to do around my desk. I've been wanting to film content forever. I've got almost 200 videos on my YouTube channel, and then I took like a 2-year hiatus because I just couldn't get myself to record anymore.
Yeah.
And I've had these big plans, but I just sat for like 2 weeks in this chair, and I looked at all the things I had to organize. I'm like, well, I can't do that until that's done, and can't do that until that's done, times 100 more things.
Yeah.
Before you know it, 8 hours go by and the day's over. And I could see myself outside my body sitting here doing nothing. It appeared like I was doing nothing, but my brain was just spinning, getting stuck.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I was able to kind of bypass a little record skip for a little bit, and then I was able to get some stuff organized. But I just want to take care of my brain.
Yeah.
Now I want to create for the sake of creating,
Yeah.
and kind of along the lines of how you shoot. I want to be able to find people that have something to add to their vision, or maybe their vision, and then I have something to add to theirs, and then we just create. I've had I'd say a handful of shoots in my career, which is kind of sad if you think about it. I've had a handful of shoots where I was okay just pressing a button, because there is so much talent on the other side, or they had just amazing energy, and I just had to capture it. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I love that. Click. Ooh, keep doing that. Click. Keep going. Click. I love it. Click. And it was words of support as opposed to words of direction,
Yeah.
and it was so refreshing. And the images, some of my favorite ones that I've done. Now, with that said, I've also created some shots that had to have that really anal retentive, do this, move your left toe 2 inches.
Sure. Like some of your really symmetrical sort of bodyscapes that you do are amazing. Yeah.
I mean, it's my favorite style because of the symmetry.
Yeah.
Because I love things to be in the right place.
Symmetry.
Oh yeah, I could stare at your hand.
Yeah, we can talk neurodivergence all day, and I intend to actually open up more about it. So I'll let you continue, but that's a discussion I can have because I'm raising 2 autistic children, one ADHD one, and I am Tourette's. So it's kind of flows in the family. I'm constantly masking, by the way, because of Tourette's, especially doing these broadcasts. It's just you have to live that way.
Man, I think there's something to be said about just being around those who you're able to just relax and be yourself.
Yeah.
And what's some of my favorite moments in history or in time. I didn't even know it at the time, but there have been some people that I really clicked with, and the conversation flowed easily, which for me is hard.
Yeah.
If I don't know who you are, I don't have the skills to be able to hold a conversation, and a lot of people think that it's me being rude or they think I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Maybe I am, but I just don't know how much you want to talk about your dog.
Yeah.
I love dogs, but I don't know your dog, and I don't want to know about what your dog likes to eat.
Yeah.
And you're still talking about it 35 minutes later when we could be shooting, I'm not meant for certain conversations.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that are on the, neurodivergent that
Yeah.
have so much talent.
Absolutely. I feel
It's
like
crazy
I
how
feel like it
creative
taps into that, like, or rather the other way around. I think that if you're neurodivergent, that it opens the taps to its potential for creativity. That's what I have noticed. My 3 children are creative for very different reasons. My youngest is probably the most practical, the less batshit artist, but he still has this creative and now analytical brain. And there's nothing wrong. It's not to say that neurotypical people are lesser. I'm not saying that, but I think neurotypical people are okay, for example, with they're okay. They seem to be okay with a type of conformity that would make me insane.
Yeah.
And they're okay with it, and it's fine. They do well for the most part. But I'm never like, I'm never settled. I can't conform. I don't want the patterns. I it's hard to describe, but this is something that I've been exploring with my children. My daughter is the most, quote unquote, most on the spectrum. They don't use the term high functioning and low functioning anymore, really. But if anything, she would be more of a high functioning. And she, if you talked with her, it'd take her an hour to open up to you. But once you did, if she liked you, she would love you, you know. And she's
Yeah.
highly creative, highly intelligent, writing college level novels in sixth grade. There's just something
Wow.
like you said about the neurodivergence. And from what I understand and what you're hearing, Mr. Seeley, sir, is that you're starting to embrace this because you've been masking heavily for a long time and you're trying to discover what actually is potential in you. Yes or no?
That's 100%. It's someone, they made a comment, or I read it somewhere, it said, the important thing about this phase is you just have to be yourself.
Yeah.
And I sat and I just replayed that in my head. I'm like, be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. Who would I be if I'm myself? Because, when people say, well, what would you do if you had nothing going on? And I say, well, I'd go and edit because I enjoy editing, or I'd shoot. Well, what would you do if you didn't have to do that stuff? I would shoot,
Yeah.
So am I who I am because I love shooting, or do I love shooting because that's who I have learned who to be? I mean, because not to sound, this is going to sound like I'm an asshole. Before photography, I was into poker because I obsessed about poker. Think about the neurodivergent brain,
Yeah.
the hyper focus piece of it. Whatever you put your mind to, it's all that you're going to think about for however long you focus on that. And before photography, it was poker. And so I was 2 centimeters away from moving out to Vegas to be a full-time poker player. I'm not going to say that I was the greatest in the world, but I could hold my own.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love poker. But since I got into photography, I don't think about poker anymore. My mind only thinks about photography. And so whatever I would have chosen, I'm confident that I would have obsessed over it. And if it would have been basket weaving, I would be the most amazing basket weaver on the planet
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's all I would think about,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, or at least in the top 10%.
Yeah. And you
I've got
can
my favorite basket weavers, but
and you can tell that your work has a certain precision to it. And it's not, I don't mean that negatively. It has a certain precision to it that I can tell a Brett Seeley from a thumbnail from a mile away. It's signature you. And I'm like, yes. And I've seen a ton of fitness focused photography, for lack of a better term. And a lot of it is very formulaic, but yours stands out. You can tell you're after something else. You can tell that you're trying to do something a little more expressive. And it sounds like you're maybe on that journey now, which I'm still on. Don't get me wrong. I'm just a little more reckless, I think, than most, and that's probably because I'm not necessarily on the spectrum of autism. I'm more ADHD and Tourette's, which are related.
yeah.
My brain goes from perfect alignment to chaos very quickly, and I thrive on both. Okay, so like these guitars sit around me, and I won't touch them for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll do nothing but guitar for 2 or 3 weeks. So I know about that obsession thing you're talking about. But my point, it sounds like we're on the same general idea of trying to understand ourselves as, like when you said be yourself and you looked confused, that's me. When people tell me that piece of advice, which is solid advice, I'm like, who am I?
What does that mean? Exactly.
Because I'm not, when I say this, also makes me, it doesn't sound like an asshole, but it sounds like I'm insincere. When I'm playing a role, oftentimes I'm playing a role. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
try not to. I have to mask for my Tourette's because I'm tired of getting ridiculed as a child and all that. I have my little masking methods. I have my worn out spots on my hand from rubbing my fingers. I have all these stimming things. I've learned how to talk about that now, and I still control it. Only the people who know me the best will see it. My kid also does it. So my 16-year-old and I will play like Assassin's Creed or something together. He'll play and then I'll play. And when he's playing, it'll trigger me, and then when I'm playing, it'll trigger him, and we laugh at each other about our triggers because we have the facial tics and stuff. But I have to mask all the time. But I'm trying to accept me as me and see what that does to my art. Is what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
it sounds like that's where you are.
It's definitely the same because I legit don't know. I don't know what I'm going to create.
Yeah.
I don't know what my style is going to be. I kind of force what I think I want to do. Because I've used strobes for my entire career, I want to use just natural light. I want to use harsh sun. I want to get
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
nice, rich saturation in skin. I
Yeah.
want to, I want to still focus on the physique. I can't shoot. Sounds bad. I can't shoot certain body types. I just don't know how to do it.
I understand.
My eyes just goes for certain lines and shapes. It's not about, this or that. It just I'm drawn to muscles. I'm
Sure.
I'm drawn to how the highlights hit. I love lighting. But I want to try to intentionally, take away what I've been so comfortable with, and then see how I adapt. And then I know the first time. I mean, for someone that's brand new, they're going to say, "Oh, it's a cool picture." But for me, it's going to be a horrible picture because I know what the true artist can do, you know?
Sorry, I
So
got you.
I just want to, I just want to see what can be done. And then I still love business. My biggest thing is business is, I'm obsessed about business. I've always been obsessed about business. And the thing that I've realized since 2020, there are so many people that need photography,
Hmm.
maybe not for income, but they need it for the sense of community. They need it
Right.
as a way to stay in touch with other humans. I know there's a few people in my group, they make great money. They don't need to make a dime off of their cameras, but they're always the ones that in our group chat, they're the first one to say, "Good morning, everybody. Good morning, friends." you know, and they're always consistently the first ones. If somebody's going through a hard time, they know first. It's their extended family. And when you have a bunch of creatives who are not competing against one another, you know, even if you're not in the same city or in the same state, there's something to be said. Especially a lot of creatives are loners. You
Yeah.
know, I don't go out. This is the most human contact I've had all week. And so to be able to reach out and just to have some contact, there's a lot of people that edit down in their basements
Hmm.
for hours and hours and hours at a time.
Yeah.
And it sounds like heaven to me, honestly, but it's, social skills, they're not developing, you
Yeah.
know? And as much as I hate to admit it, we do need human contact
We
every
do
once in a while.
now more than ever, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We have so much technology in our hands. We've never been so connected, but
Yeah.
we've never been so apart at the same time.
Now,
And it's really scary.
I have some thoughts on that, but we have to catch up on some of these comments here. Let's see. Dennis Dunbar says, "Hopeful Thursday from Santa Monica." Hey, Dennis, what's up, homie? I'll see you in Vegas very soon. AD Series, a good friend of mine. It happens with personalities sometimes. It's best to manage it before anything goes awry. And he's mentioning about my 1/3 of my shoots used to be, sort of face plants. That's true. He says again, shout out to Borders Books. Images by Calvin says Walden Books for the win. AD Series again. Social battery neurodivergence is a thing. That's very true. Robert Powell, varsity basket weaving alumni. Okay, all right. And then AD.
Robbie and Calvin, both of those guys, I met both of them after 2020,
Nice.
and some amazingly talented people. If you're ever out in Vegas, you're getting out to Vegas a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Robbie's a DJ,
Okay,
and
very
so he's
cool.
got access to all of the what's the cool word? The hip, trendy
I think
joints.
I think if you use the word hip, you're not hip. I think that's how it works.
Well, Robbie taught me that word, so I'm blaming Robbie for that. He's an amazingly talented DJ
Yeah, yeah.
and photographer who's getting back into photography as well.
Nice, nice.
Calvin now hosts a bunch of international travel around the world.
Very
He
cool.
started an impact movement where if you're in fitness or not, if you just want to travel the world, and it's about the community aspect. But he's hosting group travel all around the world, and he's
Nice.
he's a master of travel. So a lot of cool people.
It's funny. I was gonna go back to the topic of the neurodivergent aspect into socialization because that's something that I live with and I think about a long time. I am going, for example, for the first time in 3 years to WPPI. When I've been through many conferences, I was on the conference circuit as a speaker for years, blah blah blah. But I kind of 2020 killed it all, and then I never really got back on.
Yeah.
But when I go to WPPI, I'm gonna use up the social battery throughout the day, and then have to recharge it at night, as it always works, right? And I've been on many trips as well to tropical places and on the mountains and snow and blah blah blah. I've been doing group shoots and things of that nature, being a featured photographer, whatever the case may be. I still like the idea of traveling, but I'm less about the large scale social groups.
Yeah.
Me and four homies disappearing into the jungle to do some creative work. Sounds cool. A huge social thing. I'm not sure I'm ever going to go back to that. My goal is to move to a small island east of Puerto Rico and live out my days there and have models come to me. I almost want to go off grid, almost. But
We're twins, bro. I swear we're twins.
we have to be. Yeah,
Because my place is Thailand.
yeah. There you
And
go. See,
so I want to get a tiny home. If I'm going to stay stateside, I want to get a tiny home, go out somewhere where I'm connected via internet.
sure, sure.
I'll even back down to dial-up because it does need to be fast. You know what I mean? Or Thailand, just go somewhere on the other side of the world and just create.
Yeah. I mean, I'll travel. I'll come back to Houston and I'll probably end up in Vegas sometimes and I'll see the homies, but not once a week or anything. I want to go to my island. That's what I call it. That's exactly it. You know, not to disappear, not to stop doing work, but in fact to do more work and to do it in a different energy, if you will. You know what I mean? And still run my businesses and everything else. Sometimes when I tell people this, they go, "You're gonna drop it all and just go off grid and disappear," and I'm like, scale that back a little bit. Not quite. I still got.
You know, I'd say that's a great topic to talk about as well. There's a lot of people. The average age of the member of my coaching group is probably like 47.
Really? Okay,
There's
so
a lot of
our
old
age.
people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Well, not our age. We're 31.
those are the old guys.
Yeah, those are the old guys.
That's like 15 years for us.
That's true. That's true.
So 31, remember 31.
31. Got it.
But that's one thing, I think there's tons of money to be made in photography.
Yeah.
There's tons, and that's not even including the actual shooting. There's so many people that are getting into the industry or getting into the creative, field.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to know a little bit more than the person who started a little bit after you, and with all the technology going on with, whether it be a style pack for Capture One or preset pack for Lightroom or a lighting guide or a posing guide or expression guide or whatever it is, there's so much money that can be made. And what I can imagine right now, we're going to plan a trip, a small group of creatives, small group of models where, people go and whatever content's made, everyone takes home content. But I'm fascinated with the whole model of we shoot together and then the content that's made, everybody monetizes however they want. So if you're a model, of course, you can monetize with the content however you want. I have my favorite photographer when I first started out, I actually bought his iPad because I wanted his presets. And so I spent a ton of money for stuff that only worked on his shots. And I used strobes, he did natural light. So it didn't even work, but I was such a fan of his work.
Sure.
And I never used the iPad, it's just when you're passionate about learning, you're going to spend money on those who you admire,
Absolutely.
And so to go and just to create, whether it be for YouTube content or for tutorials or guides or whatever it is, man, imagine just creating whatever the fuck you wanted,
Yep.
without the pressure of, a model coming saying, "Hey, I booked for a 4-hour shoot. This is what I want." That puts you into the mask mode of, okay, I've got to deliver. Let me shoot what you want.
Yeah.
Not really creating what I want to create. You know what I mean? We're going to plan a trip somewhere. I'll contact your people. I don't have people, so I'll contact your people. You're the popular one.
I've got
so.
3 kids. I don't got people.
Well, but where would you go? What sounds like the most fascinating destination trip? Let's say 3 or 4 photographers, 3 or 4 models.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last year, this has a quick story. I'm going to answer your question with a quick story. And we have some other comments I want to catch up on too in a minute. But
Sure.
Last year, I had a bunch of cool trips planned and I was heading to Europe for the umpteenth time. Various things happened, including 2020 that killed them. And I had Europe planned. It was good to go. Everything was in order. And then 2 things happened in July. We had a real bad hurricane here, which we get, but for some reason it kind of snuck up on us. Like we got a little too cocky here on the Gulf Coast, and we're like, holy shit. And a lot of people lost power for a long time. I did, my parents' house. Everything was like a bit much, and there was a lot of cost and a lot of time lost, etc. And then immediately I went from that right into having COVID. And it wasn't just like, oh, COVID sucks. It was like nearly hospitalization and coughing for about 6 weeks. And during the hurricane recovery and my recovery, time was so lost that I talk about the neurodivergent brain. I probably could have salvaged a lot of the stuff, but there was so much marketing and so much planning and so much things that had to happen. I got overwhelmed and I canceled the European trips and said, I'll get back to them. Now, everybody understood. People were like, cool, let's talk next year. Well, now it's next year. So immediately I'd be thinking Europe, and I have connections there, people waiting on me, everybody from Amsterdam to UK to Germany and even Rome. They're like, let's go, come on, bring it, Nino. So I probably would say Europe if you were to ask me right now, because I was supposed to be there already.
Well, sorry to tell you, I'm in, and I'm the rude type. So I'm the neurodivergent type that doesn't have manners, and I don't know social cues, and I just invite myself wherever I'm not invited. So
I love it. Well, you're invited, so it's fine.
hey, all right, see, that's mind control. That's what that is.
Now, I haven't gotten these conversations going again, but I know the people and all that. And one of the models was like, hey, where are you at? She wasn't mad about it. She was just picking on me. And I was like, get in there, you know. So I would like to go potentially later this year. But I just have to get through a bunch of stuff that's happening right now. But yeah, that's where I would go, man. That's where I would go for sure. Somewhere. I say Europe generally, but you know.
Yeah, I love Europe. I've been very fortunate to have been able to go quite a few times, and it's one of those things where, as a photographer, oh man, to know that your camera allowed you to go across the world. Yeah, I mean,
oh yeah,
that's one of the most rewarding things.
It really is.
And then just now I'm daydreaming about going to Europe.
Well, let me catch up on these comments here while you daydream. 1 second here. Let me see. Make sure people feel like we're following up here. Say, Dennis is saying, I hear you on hanging with friends at conferences. Yeah. Torrance Pollard says, hey, Brett, are you going to host any fitness photo walks in Nashville soon?
You know, I've never done a photo walk. I don't even know what that term means.
Okay, so a photo walk is like it's less about a formal class and more about they say walk because often they'll be like on location or at a conference or something like that. A gathering of people come together, handful of models, some kind of instructor, and you literally walk around looking for places to shoot. Now, a photo walk can also be in the studio. You know, don't get me wrong. It's just a little less structured workshop historically, but it can be whatever the hell you want it to be. So.
Say, yeah, let's do it.
I think, okay, so Torrance, the answer is let's do it. So I guess it's happening. Let's do it. He has spoken. Dennis also said, it's fun to meet new folks, but I really, really love those times when it's just a smaller group of friends that you feel comfortable with. Agreed. Images by Calvin. I don't think slow internet exists in Thailand. Always super fast there.
That's good to know.
AD series, going off grid sounds amazing these days. LOL. Dennis, I love Europe and have lots of friends in Serbia. Yes, you do. Serbia is quietly a very interesting place because Dennis has done workshops for retouching in Serbia. And if you would have asked me 2 years ago if there's retouching workshops in Serbia, I would have been, huh? But apparently there is. I believe in when I used to travel a lot, I've been to 44 of the 50 states and then a handful of countries. I haven't done a whole lot of traveling, but I've been all over the U.S. I feed off the chaos of improvisation. I like to look at a situation and go, what am I dealing with? Like when I first shot on the top of a snow-capped mountain, I was like, this is not responding at all. I'm looking at my camera going, what the? And it's exciting to learn that. When I shot at Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, my friend out there said, this is the brightest place you'll ever have seen. I said, I've been to deserts. I'm from the Caribbean. Sunshine, yeah. I never experienced anything this bright. It was so bright, Brett, that the LCD in the back of the camera at the maximum brightness was black.
Wow.
Because it's so bright everywhere else, your brain will adapt, your pupils will shrink, but then the LCD, you can't see it. So you have to need a video loop so you can look at your shots. It's so bright. F22, ISO 100 type stuff. And, I love those experiences because I take what I learn in those chaotic environments, hanging off a cliff in Aruba or whatever, and it hardens me. It makes me feel, that's why some people call me fearless when I get on set. I have a crowd of people watching me at a workshop, a model I've never worked with in a location I've never done in someone else's camera, and I'm fearless, and I've developed that over time. Do I always hit a home run? Fuck no. But I am fearless, like probably to a fault, just because I challenged myself in dumb ways over the years. So in some ways, I feel like I'm not worried about getting the guts to do something. I just want to do more of what I love, not just go through the motions anymore. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. What the hell do I love? And that's what I've been exploring. If that makes sense.
Makes tons. Yeah.
Another comment here.
I,
Oh, the salt flats. Yes, yes. AED, the salt flats. I hope I can go back. That was a fun shoot. That was a fun shoot. But oh my goodness, we're on all kinds of different topics today, sir.
yeah. Well, apparently there's a lot of similarities
There
in
really
our
are.
very young brains.
That's right.
I'm excited, man. I think the thought of funny how you mentioned like the last trip that you were trying to plan in Europe. I did a big group trip in we did Mykonos and Santorini,
Nice.
and then right after that, probably like 3 or 4 months after that, so a little bit of time after that, we did Ibiza or Ibiza. My pronunciation is off. And we had again a huge group of people, and it's half photographers, half models, hair and makeup team. It's a big production
Sure.
and fun. It's a really fun environment. But the last trip, it just took everything out of me. People, I got COVID. A few people got COVID, but it was so hot and humid.
Yeah.
And so the temperature, people were on edge, and so just the energy was just people you know, not being happy. And I get it. The weather sucked. It was really hot,
Yeah.
but just it left such a bad taste in my mouth where I'm like, I don't want to travel at all, and so bad that I let my passport expire.
Yeah.
And and I love traveling,
Okay.
but I just let it expire, and I just looked at him like, oh, I'm never going to travel again, you know. But yeah, a few months ago, I made a decision to stop being a little bitch, and I got it renewed, and so now it's ready to go. And I'm not ready to pull the trigger on a trip tomorrow, but I think with this new phase, the last 4 or 5 years, I focused on teaching people how to do fitness,
Yeah.
and it's been successful because there have been a lot of success stories. A lot of people, they are like I said before, a lot of them are better than I am, and I love it. I love seeing people take it and run faster, But what I really want to do is I want to go back to the basics. Maybe as it's a refresher course for me, but I want to go over the basics. I would love to learn how to post somebody or how to not post somebody. Like that's brand new for me. And honestly, it's a little bit scary because I don't
Sure.
know if I'm going to be able to shut up, but we're gonna see how that goes. I want to learn how to do natural light, which is scary for me, but it's a challenge. I want to travel with just my camera and maybe a reflector or maybe one strobe and then use it in a different way. But I want to fall in love with the basics of photography again.
Yeah.
And as I'm doing that, I want to help people that have not discovered the passion of creativity yet. Because that first picture they take, do you remember the first picture you took?
Depending on when you're talking about, but yes, because my dad was a
The
photographer,
first
so
properly exposed picture you took.
properly exposed when you first realize, oh shit, this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was a test shot of my kid, but she's 21 now. But yes, I mean she's anyway. Shit, I'm 31. I forgot. No, but I know what you
It's
mean.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That first shot, you're like, it's like you drew blood.
Yeah, oh yeah. And the thing is that there's a lot of people that, they might have been shooting for like 10 years,
Yeah,
learning at their own pace or shooting with their group of buddies that they shoot on the weekend over a case of beers, which is fine. But I guarantee you there's a few of them out there who are in that range who feel like they've plateaued and they haven't even started yet,
yeah,
you know? And when they have that first experience with someone who can pull out or who can ask them, how do you want to shoot it? What do you think could be better? Be honest. Of course, people are going to say it's a great picture because models are going to want to get free photo shoots from you. I mean, of course, your family and friends are going to say it's great because they're supportive. But the first time someone tells you that the image sucks
yeah,
and you respect their opinion, that's what was the pivot point in my career.
yeah,
My first actual mentor, I asked him to tear me a new asshole, and he did. He said, "This sucks, that sucks, this sucks,
yeah,
that sucks, and that's horrible." Whoa. I wasn't prepared for it, but it was so refreshing because now I knew how to make a change
yeah.
and how to actually go in the right direction. And that's what made my career blow up, because I wasn't doing the same stupid mistakes. And to see someone else go through that same thing, man, there's nothing like it. There's a lot of people that are in the group that, they've had these epiphany moments or these the big moments where their work took a huge shift,
Yeah.
you know?
I love
and you
seeing
can
those
just see,
moments in people because you can see it from
love
the
it.
outside, even if they can't sometimes.
Hmm.
And it's wonderful. Yeah.
And especially, with you, you have so much experience to give. It was surprising that you said that you're not doing as many workshops because I've always assumed that I think of you and I think of like a room with 40 people, a bunch of monitors or a bunch of computers for editing
Yeah.
sessions. But lighting's always been on point. Um,
I mean, I
you're
have
you're kind
done
of like a rock star, man.
I appreciate that. I've done over 200 classes in 12 years, 12, 13 years. I've done a shit ton of stuff, never mind how many online as well. So I love teaching. I love engaging with people. 2020 shifted the priority to that. And I understand that in education, there's a couple things I've learned. And I want to talk about this a little bit because I'm not trying to like have your answers, but I think I have some thoughts for you because you mentioned a couple of things that are very close to my heart that I've also
Mhm.
talked to students and associates about. The first phenomenon is that I was told by an older cat. He's been at this 40 odd years. They said, "You're at the 15-year mark." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's no man's land." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're not the hot new shit that everybody's talking about. That 3-year guy who's out there kicking ass. And everybody's going, well, you were, but you're not anymore. You're not the 30-year stalwart who's like, you're absolutely the guru on the hill. You've got this for 35 years. You paid every due possible, and if you keep your attitude about you and keep your wits about you, you're one of a small group. You're at that 15-year working tier where most people question and doubt themselves because they're like,
Mhm.
I've accomplished something, maybe I've accomplished everything. They don't usually know that next question. I thought, damn, that's exactly right. And second, you mentioned getting into natural light, and what hit me with natural light was when I understood one key thing about natural light: you have to accept it. It's not learning how to do it. It's not learning how to do it. There's nothing to do. You just have to accept what you're presented with and capture it. It sounds easier said than done because once you, if it, learning how to do natural light photography is not a technical thing. It's a vision thing. It's a willing to see what's there and understanding what you like and don't like about it and how to move yourself and how to reposition something. It's about accepting what's there, not doing anything. And that kind of vision has furthered and snowballed into today. What is my vision? What am I trying to say with my work? Perhaps it'll never be socially profound. Okay, I'm not rage against the machine in photography. I just make pretty pictures. But what am I trying to express? I don't even have that answer sitting here in March 2025. I don't know what I'm trying to express, but I do know that I don't want to just do the same thing over and over. And I want to take myself a little more to heart on that. And so when I say I'm fearless, I carry a lot of insecurity. I carry a lot of, what do you call it, imposter syndrome that pops up and now and
True.
then
Yeah.
everybody does, right? But one thing I have really embraced in the last 2 years specifically, I am zero competition, zero competitive. I am bored of talking about equipment. I don't care. I don't believe that there is a method or a technique that I'm missing, that is my missing link to my work. I don't think that anyone is not doing their best work because of a missing technique. I think that we all grow in certain directions and eventually this technique is not relevant. When we talk about the greatest artists, we do talk about their technique retroactively, but they weren't thinking that. I cite Warhol a lot because Warhol, I feel like a certain akin to Warhol because he very consciously created what he created, to be as subversive as possible and had a tongue-in-cheek attitude about it and had this like, I'm going to create it because I'm going to create it and you're going to love it. Wow, that's powerful. I would love to get to feel that. I don't want to be Warhol. He's kind of a jerk, to be honest. But that feeling of, I'm going to make this and you're all going to love it because it exists. That's the kind of power I want to feel as an artist, not to dominate a soul, but to feel that inside myself, that I'm making
Mm.
something that's worthwhile and I believe it. And I'm babbling. But anyway, those are some thoughts.
What I kind of see when you look back at what you do, it's second nature to you, So if you don't have that humongous spark of excitement, although the product is amazing, you've done it before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's another day. You know what I mean? And so the reality is you're doing a badass shit over and over and over. You know what I mean? So many people would just love to be able to do a tenth of what you can do. You know, what I would propose, and maybe this is just me talking out loud, but maybe it's because I'm turning 32 next year. I'm going through the moment of feeling, questioning what my thumbprint on the world's going to be.
Yeah.
And I've seen the smiles that others have had because of the camera. I've seen the money that people have made because of the camera, or just the confidence boost knowing that they can make a healthy living based off of their creativity.
Yeah.
To be a part of that makes me so excited. To say that I want to get into education, I don't want to get into education just I want to give you information, now good luck and go have fun with it. I want to really focus on building a community of people where they can confidently go in and know that they're going to grow, because then I know as people go to the next level, that's me in my head taking my favorite shot, and then someone else advances to the next level. That's me taking another one of my favorite shots, so I'm taking all these shots through them. It's their images, you know what I mean? But I get just as much satisfaction as if I would have taken the shot myself. And that's me, to build a community of people that are just so willing to give, share. And it's not charity. You know what I mean? It's not something where, hey, anybody can come in, shit and then leave.
Yeah.
You have to invest in your craft. If you have skin in the game, you're going to do the work.
Right.
You don't appreciate what's given to you, for free. And so I think there's a way to, like I said, I love business. I think there's definitely a way to, I want to try to propose for, in addition to the trips we're going to do, European and Thailand and everywhere. So just so you know, you're stuck. So
Sweet.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm not really sorry. But
my passport expires in 9 years. We're fine.
Oh, that's good. Me too. Yeah, I want to try. I think the industry needs more community. There's so many people that talk shit in the industry, and it's when you're almost your age. To have people your age talk like they're in high school is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absurd.
I mean, I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But that's the whole competitive spirit. There's a lot of people that are in it for the wrong reasons. But through community, I think we can make small shifts. We can change.
Two responses. One, in the years and years of giving private lessons, if I ever start into a retouching class with someone who shoots fitness, your name comes up immediately. So you have created something, sir, and you are a figure and an icon that a lot of people look up to, and a lot of people will cite as part of their path, their journey. So definitely acknowledge that at the very least, because your name comes up a lot, sir, and rightfully so. And second, what I will say is that, how do I put this? It goes without saying that the higher, more confident you are, more experienced you are, the less you tend to be more plasticky and competitive in a plastic sense, that you get jealous quickly. When you get to a certain point, that doesn't exist anymore, right? And when you see that coming out of somebody who you see has potential, maybe they're not as old as us, maybe they're in their 20s, and you see something in them, and the work is great, and you can see the fire in their eyes, but then they're succumbing to the jealousy. They're succumbing to something token that maybe I did all those years ago, and in my 20s, and you see it, and you're like, how do I get them out of this? How do I pull that out of them? And a lot of times, unfortunately, what I've learned is that time is such a powerful teacher. You have to guide and send in the right directions and hope that they'll come out of that, because the cutthroat nature of it, the internet, social media, and all that. We have so much connectivity, and so much opportunity, so much information, overload of information. So what's more important now than information? Authenticity.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing, and that's what I feel like people like you provide, and what I try very hard to provide as well. So I think we're on the same page there. But I want to make sure you give yourself enough credit. Damn it.
Well, all I know is, man, it's at this point, it's about making sure that those who you spend the most amount of time with, those who you align with, those who you vouch for, have the same, not the same thought process, but a little bit of the same core value system.
Yeah.
And I've always been a huge fan, man. I've always been a huge fan of the quality of work. Obviously, has been solid. Your retouching skills are insane. I'll be honest, I don't understand a fucking word of what you say in your tutorials. when you talk about this and color science and doing this and adjustment, and when you're doing all your magic stuff, I'm purely looking just because of the pretty colors, man. My brain doesn't absorb any of your smart word stuff that you say from your mouth. Your talent is insane.
Well, I
And
appreciate
the
that,
fact that
man.
you offer so much, especially with the tools you provide. For anybody watching this today or later, there's no reason to take the long road just for the sake of taking the long road. If you can get a shortcut, take the shortcut. And the tools that he provides, it is a humongous shortcut. You would think that after 15, 16 years of experience, I would be a master at knowing all these different things. I am a master of taking shortcuts. I press a button if it makes the action work faster. And these tools, it's been a game changer for me.
Seriously, man.
They're
Thank you.
they've been a game changer. So for all you've done for the industry, huge props for that.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
You've
Seriously.
left your thumbprint on the industry, man. You've definitely left it a lot better than what it was before.
Well, you know what? That might be the nicest compliment I've ever heard right there. Thank you. Seriously.
This is a new me. Normally, I don't say nice things. Ask anybody in my group. Normally, I talk shit all day long. This is me. Not sure if this is unmasking or putting on a bullshit mask. It's one of the two.
Whatever. It's recorded for posterity. It has been documented. Let me catch up with some comments here. Yeah, Dennis is saying very often I think imposter syndrome is a sign that you really care. That's fair. That's sort of synonymous with why does it hurt so much? It's because it's real, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Dennis also says, and in that way, it can be a good thing, motivates you to keep going. That's true, yeah, because there's nothing more. There's so many token things that we witness psychologically when we talk about an artist. We see an artist coming up, whether they're under our wing for a little while or whatever. We see them coming up, and we can see like the fake bravado. We can see the fake daily atrocities of some injustice that just doesn't mean anything, that everyone has to go through. And you're like, all right, brother, I understand. It's not what you think it is, but you got to go through this. Okay, cool. That I enjoy. That's why I said recently, actually, that I enjoy being in my 30s, because I actually don't miss being super young. I miss the energy maybe, but I don't miss the chaos in my brain of 25. I feel much more at peace here at 31.
I have a feeling some people are not going to understand why you say 31 a certain way. But my question is, how come Dennis is so fucking cool? He's saying a lot of smart man things, but my support system, Calvin, is not saying very much. He's just saying slow Wi-Fi, and that's it.
Maybe Calvin bailed. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if Calvin does anything. I think he's calling you out, Calvin. You may want to jump back on.
Yeah, he's not watching.
You know what? He bailed.
Yeah, I think the trips. Yeah, back to the original point though.
Yeah.
I will be honest. When I go through my next shoot where I try to give up some of the control, which it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's not about comparing, but I know I'm going to think in my head, what would Nino do right here? And that's the cool thing about having, colleagues that you look up to, because it's not a bad thing to say, what would he do in this case? Because the people that are producing amazing things, don't reinvent the wheel, right?
Right.
Once you learn the basics, then you add your own flavor to it.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Well, I think that if you want to do something sincerely, like you want to explore different paths sincerely, then eventually you're going to find success in it, especially someone like you who's very focused and dedicated to what you want, right? However, one thing that I've learned that makes me feel like an asshole, because it's one of the problems I've had for many years is people pleasing. I'm too nice about things, and so I'm trying to be the opposite of that. And one of the ways I'm being the opposite of that is, if I'm not excited about it, I'm not doing it. And so I decline collabs with some regularity, or I had say, if it doesn't have the same reciprocal energy, I don't want anything to do with it. And I even text my homie AD all the time directly, and I go, hey, I was just proposed this. I didn't want to do it, and I said no. And he's like, golf clap. It's about trying to do something with authenticity. So if you want to try different things and it's authentic, you're going to succeed, brother. You just are.
All I want to know is, man, how do you get smart like you to come up with all these tools?
Hey,
Like
I come up with crazy ideas. My developer and partner Joaquin is a genius. He put my crazy ideas into reality. So let's give him props.
Is there? Have you gone into the augmented reality or the VR, the AR,
Not
or with
me.
the
Not me.
glasses?
My kids have messed with that a little bit, but I haven't touched any of it.
Yeah. What's your take on AI
AI is
as it
interesting.
pertains to photography?
AI is interesting. So AI is super cool because it's not new. What is new is the mainstreaming of it in the last 2 3 years, but it's not new. This technology didn't just emerge out of nowhere. So I'm not scared of it in the traditional sense that people might be scared of it. There's no question that certain things will be changed, but we've seen automation and technology replace human things for decades now, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not being naive. I'm not being naive to the potential dangers. I understand that. However, as an artist, there's always some element of why that makes an art piece interesting. It doesn't have to be a super profound why, but there has to be a why. There's a story. If I see a shot that Brett Seeley does off the cliffs of Dover in Britain, when that trip that we're going to take, and it's super cool, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, beautiful shot, beautiful subject, beautiful everything. I want to know more. This actually happened. Even if I don't ever get my answers, I ask questions that draw me in. There's something, this happened. That's a person. That's a real place. That's something that occurred. If I generate that in AI, that element is removed. And that is not the same type of art. Now, have we had dismissible manufactured canned art before? Sure. But that intent, which is the only human element of anything, is intent, which is the why. Because who, where, when, what, and how can all be easily defined by just about anything. But why is a human thing because that suggests intent. And even the simplest things, like a beautiful picture of the White Cliffs of Dover, has a why. And I'm not scared as an artist of being replaced by AI because AI has no why. So it reminds me to keep looking for my purpose because that will hopefully be conveyed in the work that I do, if that makes sense. I've had a lot of conversations on this and written some articles about it, actually. So that's my thesis, but I have a lot to say on it. How about you? What do you think?
I live in a really sheltered world. All I know is fitness photography. I don't, I've got
Okay.
a few buddies that do headshots,
Sure.
and I have fear, a legit fear for them, because someone can take iPhone picture of just their
Yeah.
face, so it's of them, but now you have in a suit, in a blazer, in a button-up shirt, so in a click of a button, the
Yes.
cost is a tenth of what they would spend with a headshot photographer.
Hmm.
Is it scary for that niche?
Yes.
From the outside, I think it's really scary.
Absolutely.
Do I have the same fear for fitness? For fitness, I don't.
Right.
It's not that we are immune from it, but because it takes so much time to transform your physique, your body. I mean, you're eating chicken and rice 3 or 4 times a day for 12 weeks, and so to have a AI generated image of you and your physique, it's just not the same.
It's not.
It's
There's no story.
it's I want an actual picture to showcase what I actually look like
Mhm.
after putting so much effort into, transforming myself. And so I think fitness is safe
Agreed.
for the immediate future at least. I'm kind of curious how it's going to impact because I know with like influencers, a lot of brands are going to the AI influencers because there's the automatic response. You know what they're going to comment if someone sends them a message, and it doesn't cost nearly as much as if you're to pay an actual influencer type. So I think it's going to shake up the industry a ton when it comes to that particular section of it. For glam, I'm trying to think of like if when I say a glam model, and I apologize if this is offensive, there are working models and that are amazing. They're bread and butters. They travel around the world and they model for photographers, and so they're actually working professionals. But a lot of models, they shoot just for fun. And when all the apps came out where you take a picture, then it gives you like 10 different versions of what you look like. The majority of people that really loved that the most were like the part-time models, who just love pretty pictures of themselves. Irrelevant if it's of them or not. Irrelevant
Exactly.
if it was an actual real picture.
Mhm.
And they would have it be their profile picture, and it's like that looks nothing like you. That is totally AI generated. You're 4 feet tall. That makes you look 6 feet tall. I mean, you're not blonde. You mean but that's what they loved, you
Hmm.
know. So does that mean that they no longer wish to do photo shoots, or would they even pay for a photo shoot? You know,
I think that has
so
everything to
for
do with asking what their end game is, right? You know, if your end game is to develop a huge following and to be paid by brands and to push products to people whether they need them or not, probably meaningless products, then you know, end game related art is nothing new. It just now can be created quicker. So I think there's a path for that, and the people who make end result oriented art for the sake of trying to peddle something that they just have to move into AI or die, right? So I'm actually okay with that. And one of the reasons why I'm okay with that is because I've always been very disconnected from end result oriented art. I don't see myself as that person. So when I have been that person, I'm not happy. So I my favorite art, my favorite artists are equal. I don't just like Brett Seeley's work. I like Brett Seeley. I like the things that he says. I want, if I can find out about it, I want to know. You know, you can't know what Rembrandt said because there's no recordings of him, right? But there's something there. There's a story. There's an element there that draws you in. So, yes, there's people being affected. That's why I said earlier, I'm not naive to the damage and the concern. Never mind Skynet. But in terms of art, I am not worried about it because an AI didn't live the 31 years of my life before me to create the experiences I'm creating that might come out in what you're seeing. There's a story there. The AI cannot live that life that I've lived, for better or worse. Their art could be better technically done. Cool. But, you know, I'm not that scared about it. By the way, please comment, but I'm going to check out these comments that are coming in because they're flowing. I think Calvin popped up. Let me see. You're disinvited from Australia now, he says. You are no longer welcome down
he's
under.
talking to you. He's talking to you because your
No, he
passport's
said
not.
comma bread. Pretty sure that's you.
Damn it.
He also says AI will never replace the adventure of destination shoots. See, stories, stories. You know,
Yeah, very true.
stories there.
Now on that same, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Eric Arnold has a comment here. I remember when wedding photographers were saying that the industry was overdue to cell phones and digital camera. That industry is possibly stronger today than back in the 80s and 90s. Basically saying that everyone's going to take pictures on their phones and whatnot and everything too. Yeah, I agree with that, Eric Arnold. I am not of what we have another comment. Geez, they keep coming in, dude. Hold up. To survive, you need to adapt. True. But I also think you need to accept. That's another aspect of it. It will change. Now, where do you fit in? But one thing that you can't take from Brett is Brett. You always do the work that you do. If you switch to 100% prompt work and that's all you're doing now, I'd be like, Brett's dead. Now something else has been taking its place, but Brett the artist is not here. So I'm not, as long as you're true to yourself, I think you can do it. There's not to say there's not a lot of work involved and a lot of hustle and a lot of business, as you said, but I'm not terrified of AI the way some people are.
Yeah, that's a fascinating point. I mean, you bring out a lot of great points. One thing that we talk about in our little photo community group is, you know, it's a lot harder to be a photographer today than it was 10 years ago. When I first started, it's not that it was easy, but Facebook was a king on the land, and so Facebook was also largely text based, and so you could write a ton where people could really get to know who you were.
Yeah.
And then photos came on, and then, you know, it was great for business. Facebook was amazing for business. You would think Instagram would have been, you know, amazing at the same time because it was photo based. But I kind of got on Instagram a little bit late. You
Yeah.
know, I just wasn't a big fan of it because there wasn't that story element. Now with all the advancements with video and with now having to be a content creator to be a photographer nowadays, as opposed to just a photographer, you know, one of the things that we would suggest to anyone that's on the newer side of creating, to Nino's point, emphasize and prioritize story, you know, because as the quality of work increases, the playing field levels out. You know, everybody is able to produce a lot of really solid work. And the ones that just post hoping for likes and comments without any context, without any revealing a little bit about what makes the person tick, you know, their work is going to blend in with everybody else. But the ones who try to connect with the audience, who try to share a little bit, not overshare, you know, I think I might be guilty of oversharing sometimes, but you have to reveal something either about yourself or something that you stand for, you know, lead the way, because as content creators, you're creating content, you're not consuming it. And I think when people really understand the value of their voice through
Right.
imagery and through words. It's it's never been harder to be a creator, but it's never been easier at the same time.
Yeah,
You
well
know,
said.
so if you can tie in some kind of story, that way, like you just said, people get what know, like, and trust. Something that's been said
Mhm.
many times over and over and over. Know, like, and trust. The more you focus on that, the more people are more likely to give you money. For
Which
some people, that's really important.
And that point brings us back to an hour ago when we started this about be yourself, which is be authentic,
Mhm.
really. And then, of
Yeah,
course, some of us batshit artists are like, what does that mean? What does that mean, be ourselves? And that can be scary. But that authenticity, I think, is what people are craving desperately. You know what I mean? Most of the
absolutely.
compliments that I get from students are a combination of thank you for being legit and genuine, and thank you for accepting me as genuine. They like that I
Nice.
accept them for where they are, and
Yeah.
that's what I tried to do. In 2020, when the world shut down, I had the benefit of being an instructor. So I started pushing the idea of, hey, I do online training, by the way. And people were like, well, you do? And I was like, yeah, I have for years. And then everybody learned how to use Zoom like we're on now, right? Because most people didn't know. And so I did like 97 sessions in 4 months, because I offered this like pay what you can. Life sucks right now. Just send over anything and let's talk. And I did
Yeah.
more diverse sessions in that 4 month period than I ever have in my entire life. And I learned so much about people. I was talking with fine artists who were like taking dark, difficult, autobiographical self portraits about their drug addiction
Oh,
and
wow.
trying to express that and being scared to. And I said, don't be scared to. This is who you are. There's a message there to be said. Someone who sent me 17 euros to take 45 minutes of my time. And I was like, this is a heavy responsibility. What do I tell people like this? And I
Yeah.
realized very quickly as I started these sessions was you got to tell them the facts. You got to tell them the authentic truth. You don't mold them into who you want them to be. You try to hopefully bring out who they already are in an authentic manner. Or what I've learned over time is I don't teach people what to think. I teach them how to think. At least that's my goal.
Yeah.
And that's authenticity, I think, is what I'm desperately seeking and what I think a lot of people are. And you're doing it right, is what I'm saying, in my opinion.
Man, that's deep stuff. Like, I wish I could understand how the mind works. Like,
Right?
the ones that are really creative like that have the off the wall ideas, or the really deep, with multiple layers of meaning. Like, it amazes me. My brain just does not comprehend. You know, it goes way over.
Yeah.
I have a huge appreciation for it, but I just that's a form of talent that, God, they need to be pushed forward because they change people's mindsets.
I think that certain, my opinion, it's clearly neurodivergent, but the artists that I've met that are properly batshit artists and they're beautiful about their work. And they can't, I think you and I can mask. I think some people can't.
Mm.
And I think the people who create art unmasked, unbound, fearlessly, for whatever that's worth, I'm not saying they don't struggle, but I, it's kind of like in the Tourette's world, our top brass are the can't help but cuss out loud people. We don't make fun of those people. Those are our bosses. Those are our 4-star generals because they are not able to mask. And that's what the public thinks about when you say Tourette's. They think the cussing people, the people who just go
Yeah.
fuck out of nowhere, right? We can relate to that in the lower tiers, but we see them as, wow, that's a certain kind of freedom,
Mm.
because they can't mask. And I think there's some artists that I've met that are so freaking crazy and their work is so good. And I think, how could I be that? And the answer is I can't. But I think that's what you're saying. Just the people who are just so, they seem so unhinged and creative. And you're like, how do I capture some of that?
Mm.
You know? Um, but I think that they're just being their authentic self because they can't help it. Me, has to learn how to be that authentic person. If I'm saying, well, we really tapped into some heavy shit tonight. But I think I think it was important though. I think we have another comment. Let me see. By the way, I lost my eyesight last year when I turned 30. So give me one moment.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a
I'm not even
previous.
gonna hold these up either.
AD series says 31 with a bunch of laughing emojis. What's that about,
Hey,
AD?
hey, 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 hey! I don't know. The older generation uses those laughing memes or whatever emojis.
Yeah, whatever those there. Yeah, exactly. Some of us were born in the Clinton administration. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. What do
Stupid
you say?
time. No, man, we do have a lot of parallels, and for all these years that we've known each other, it's great to actually sit down and talk. Now, most of the time we keep these around 30, 45 minutes. We've talked a little over an hour and 15, which is fine. I'm not necessarily trying to shut you up, but I will let everybody know while we're broadcasting. If you do have any questions, throw them on here. We'll probably go, Brett, if you're okay with it, another 10 minutes or so. If you want to
Sure.
have some finalizing comments, I'd love to hear them. But I think this is the kind of conversation that I'm really hoping, as a side note to everyone watching, this is the kind of conversation I'm really hoping to open up more to on MVP. I don't want the MVP channel live streams to be product demos. We have product demos. Go watch them. But we want this to be about the artist. I think that my partner and I we're artists first, and then I'm a sort of Photoshop nerd for 30 years. I mean, however long. No, not 30 years. You know what I mean. I've been a Photoshop expert for a long time. And he's a programming guru, and he's delightfully neurodivergent in his own way. And we are artists first, and I think that's what we want to try to push on MVP live stream. So I really appreciate this conversation. But how about some finalizing thoughts, Brett? Tell me about if you have tangible goals for this year, what are they? And let's start there.
Oh, goals. This year, my goal is to get back onto YouTube and then get back to educating or back into education. I don't have the energy that I did when I was in my 20s, and so I don't see myself shooting nearly as much as I did in the past. But before I forget it all, I want to make sure that all the good parts are all shared. And I think a lot of the wrong turns can be shared to help prevent somebody else from taking those same wrong turns. Now,
Agreed.
there is value in going through some of that stuff on your own, but some of the stupid mistakes are just stupid mistakes. And so if some help can be given to help navigate through that,
Right.
I just love seeing people explode. I love people tapping into the creativity that they did not realize was there, or being able to create what they see in their head. I love when people have vision. I tell people all the time, I can train a monkey how to shoot, but I can't train a monkey how to have vision.
Yeah.
I think you either have it or you don't. And when you find someone who has that vision, and I've seen some people who have the most amazing ideas that I never would have thought of, I want to be a part of that just to help them get to where they're going, because they don't have the technical skill,
Yeah.
but they've got the visionary skill. Technicality is easy, press that button, boom, move that light 2 inches to your left, boom, all right, we got there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that part is really exciting. So I want to try to. It sounds overly romanticized, and maybe it's because I'm just a weirdo. I want to make a shift in the industry so that way people look at one another as colleagues more so than competition. Throughout my entire career, I've never understood how quick people are to view colleagues as the enemy, over what? One booking? You know what I mean? You're going to stab somebody in the back over an hour session,
Right.
you know? I just don't get that. And maybe I'm just ignorant, which I'm a little bit special, so maybe that's just me. But I think there's a lot that can be handed down to the next generation, because a lot of behaviors are taught or they're learned. And when you collaborate, when you share, Peter McKinnon really opened it up. He blew up because he shared information. Was he the best photographer? Probably not. But was he legendary as an educator and a sharer of creativity? Well, absolutely he was. And he proved that you can make it an amazing living by sharing information. And
Absolutely.
for the last 4 or 5 years, a large portion of my income has been from sharing information with with the coaching group. I want to expand on that. I want to open up to more people. I'd love to have 1,000 plus members. Open up so that way it's not priced out of most people's tiers, and then just have just fun outings where people can actually mingle amongst other creatives and then see what we can create different places around the world. So that's my goal for this year. And ultimately, I would like to try to learn how to figure out what it is to just be me. So to see what happens after that.
No, those two
For
goals.
those of you who joined.
Yeah, those two goals are not mutually exclusive. They're the same path, really. They're just
Yeah.
different ends. You're figuring yourself out while you're figuring out the art that you want to make. And I say that because that's exactly where I am. But I will say that when it comes to wanting to create the community, you already have, and you want to expand on it because you understood a long time ago that you don't create competition. That's not a thing. If you're an educator or a figure of any kind, you're not creating competition. You're I hate when people have that idea. I've had people ask me flat out. They go, "Why do you teach if you're just making other people good?" I guess is what the word. And now you have competition. I'm like, whoa! I don't see the world through that lens at all, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, if everybody gets better, then the average product is better, which means in theory, the average rates can be raised
Yeah.
as well. So it's, there's always this, and I've seen this since day one. A lot of the older generation would always say, yeah, all these people giving away images for free, putting all these images on a CD and doing TFP and all this stuff and giving away 100 images and blah, 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 and just bitching, bitching, bitching. And I'm like, I'm never going to be like that guy.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be the old grumpy guy bitching about what other people are doing, because the easy fix is to teach them, give them the tools so they no longer have to offer shit for free. Solution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people
Exactly.
just have a limited mindset, and it's,
You can talk about philosophy and spirituality if you want, but the more you put out there, the more you could get back. It shouldn't be about just getting something back, but it does come back in all
yeah,
kinds of different
absolutely.
ways. And those little investments in people is a beautiful way for yourself. Now I understand everybody has different personalities. Some people aren't super social. Some people aren't XYZ. Some people are more hermits, and I respect all of that. But the idea that people, like you said, that your associates are your enemy somehow, that mindset is toxic, of course, and not only does it persist, but there are people, and I'm not going to say any names, but there are people that I've witnessed on the face tubes and everything else, stoking these fires, and I'm like, you are a figurehead. What are you posting? Because then everybody below in the comments is, yeah, and then there's pitchforks and everybody's pissed off, and you're stoking the fires in the wrong direction, and I'm like, why? You're a figure. You have a responsibility. You built something and people look up to you, you know? And I understand that in a perfect world, someone should come, they visit me, they come into my space somehow or another, my world, and they gain something from me, and then they go, or maybe they stay. But the path that they take, if I was one little cog, if I was one little step for them by something that I provided and sent them in a beautiful direction, that's a wonderful feeling. And it doesn't just feel good, it fuels me. And I think you can
Yeah,
relate to that.
yeah, absolutely.
That's that one. I think that's a brilliant viewpoint, Brad. And you, like I said, you have been doing it. I'm going to keep saying that because you aren't saying it, but you have been doing it. I hear your name pop up all the time, especially in the fitness space. I'm glad you're wanting to expand, not because there's anything wrong with fitness, but if that's where your heart is at, you want to try something else, you should try it fearlessly, and you're going to succeed at it. Just to be clear, I don't think we have any more comments now. So, but it's probably a good time to wrap, about 90 minutes or so. I'm not the Gen Z streaming for 6 hours type person, like stuff my kids watch. I mean, my
Not
kids,
yet. We're gonna start today, though. Hey, well,
17
just one
hours.
thing for
Yeah.
anyone that is watching this at a later time,
Mhm.
that is watching all the way to this point. Uh, just as a reminder, definitely don't be afraid to take all the tools available to level up. The faster you level up, the faster you can enjoy the all the good things that happen from being better than what you are today. And then for those of you who are wanting to reach out to someone, you know, I'm going to give you a little hint on how you can approach somebody a little bit easier. I get a lot of DMs where people say, "How many lights did you use?" No hello, no guess, no politity. I don't know. English is hard. No politeness.
Politeness, that'll work.
They just come out with a harsh question, And on my YouTube channel, I do tell people, reach out if you have any questions,
Sure.
and I do genuinely mean that. And I'm sure this applies to Nino as well. If you have a question, how'd you edit that? I mean, that's not going to get you as far as to say, "Hey, man, I have your plugin. I tried doing the frequency separation. This is my attempt, but I'm struggling to get the right ratio of the skin to grain deep, blah, 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 blah. Where am I missing it?" The more information you give when you're asking for information, I'm going to bend over backwards. If you say, hey, on that image, it looks like you have three lights, one about 45 degrees here, one on the ground there, and one underneath here. Am I in the same ballpark? I will spend an hour drawing you a diagram.
Yeah.
I will help you take the shot if you provide a little bit of proof that you at least tried to attempt it. That's something that I think is missing from a lot of newer creatives today. There's that expectancy of that instant gratification, or give me because you have a YouTube channel, so give me information. The effort that you put in on your own side, that's going to determine how much information you get, at least from my chair.
You're right. And it also allows you to give a more accurate answer because you're not guessing. You're not completely wide open. Now you have to ask 6 questions back to try to narrow this down, and you might miss the mark. Whereas if they give you the context, you can go, oh, bam. And then, like you said, take whatever time. I could not agree more with that statement. By the way, comments are flowing in. One moment. We're not done with you yet, sir. Let's see here. Russ G Photography, loving this Zenology. Okay. Evan Splet, this is Evan from Ottawa. Hello, Evan. Rafael Rincon, hey guys, good to see you. Good to see you, Raf. Cool. We got people piling in 90 minutes in. Why not? Who would have figured?
Russ G, amazingly talented guy out of Charleston, South Carolina.
Excellent.
And Rafa, I think he's still over in Florida. That dude is genius.
Yeah.
That dude is amazingly talented. He has like a high fashion vibe to his images.
I was supposed to go to his studio a couple of years ago, but life happened.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another.
Man, so that's a cool thing about this industry. There's so many super creative people. And I think when you get to a certain point, you look at other people's work, and it's 100% based off of appreciation for the talent and skill.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started out, I was immature when I first started. So I looked at some images and said, man, I could do better. Well, I couldn't, you know what I mean? But when you're young, you're kind of stupid. But
when you're in your teens, when we started.
Yeah, that. But shout out to all the amazingly creative people out there.
Yeah, there's a ton of creative people out there. And people worry, perhaps rightfully so, that between AI and the internet and the lack of authentic connection between people and blah, 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 there's a lot of reasons to say that art is dying and that sort of creative expression is dying. And I understand where they're coming from, but I respectfully disagree. I think we just have to accept that we're still out there and to get the energy from those who inspire you and ideally inspire others, and it keeps the energy going. That's
agreed.
That's how I want it to be, And we both have kids, we both have things we have to worry about and all that and everything else. But I try to cultivate being somewhat accessible when I can, as much as I possibly can. And I'd rather have that cultivated connection with someone than be some kind of hard ass business guy looking at stats and numbers and marketing and how much money can I make. I'd rather be a batshit artist making a halfway okay living for the rest of my life than ever be super rich and just a face stomping asshole. I can't do that. I've never understood that world.
Agreed.
Jesus Christ, why do we have more questions? What's happening? It's like the Eastern Hemisphere is waking up or something. Let's see here. Raphael says, thank you for the shout out. Absolutely, mijo. Torrance is saying, thanks guys for an awesome live. Been watching both of you for years. Well, thank you, Torrance Pollard.
Appreciate that.
And Raphael is saying, I am average. You guys are masters. Oh, cállate, mijo. You know you are. You're awesome.
Man, if you saw some of his shots he did out in Vegas, I think it was 2, 3, 4 years ago. Memory's not there. But yeah, he's really super impressive.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Well, I just want to say thanks again for all the stuff you do for the industry. On behalf of everybody in my group, the tools have transformed workflows.
Okay.
And and I say this without a promo code. I say this because I genuinely do use the products that he offers. If you want to use promo code, what's a good one we can use? Be kind to others.
Be kind.
You don't get anything off. You just type.
Just be good. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
No, if you guys have any questions about the product seriously, or any promos or offers or whatever, go to the website, drop us an email. We're always accessible. Hit me up on social. Always happy to talk about it. We are a very small company. We don't push out 100 licenses a day or anything crazy like that. We're very small, and I like to make myself accessible. So, and by the way, back to what you were saying, Brett, if you send me a tech support question, more info also helps, because then I can solve your issue. This doesn't work. What do I do? I love you, bro, but I need some context, All right, I think one final comment here. We're going to have to wrap it up because this is Calvin again. Great live. This is definitely worth eating dinner early to make it. All right, well, Calvin says that. And AD is laughing at me like he always does. AD, I'll hit you up shortly. All right, well, Brett, I want to thank you once again. It's been an absolute pleasure and very inspiring, as a matter of fact, talking with you today, which I knew it would be. I just want to make sure that everybody, by the way, in the description of this video, you'll find links to his Instagram and whatever the hell else I'll add if you want me to add anything. Follow Brett, whether you're into fitness photography or not. He has a lot more to offer in that realm. He is absolutely a figure in the industry, not any type of egotistical way, as you probably figured out from the live. And I encourage all of you to follow him, engage with him, be inspired by him. Absolutely worth it. I know I have been. And this is the longest I've ever spoken to you ever in the history of time, and I'm glad we did.
That is true. Look forward to the same time, same place tomorrow, yeah?
Same place tomorrow. No, I think Brianna's going to have an issue with that because her stream's tomorrow.
Ah, all right. I see. I understand.
But we will talk.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
No, of course. And we'll talk about, the cool creative ideas and trips and things of that nature. And, I used to live in Vegas. I don't live there anymore, but I'm going back a lot. I know sometimes you go there. Who knows what awesome things we can figure out.
We'll see you sooner than later.
All right. We're going to sign off, you guys. Thank you again for watching. Bear with me while we sign off because it's always a little bit of a